but it's clear that at the moment we cannot fight with those cars. I mean, for me, Nordschleife was fantastic.
Listen, guys, hold on, because the FIA just held an emergency meeting, changed the rules, patted themselves on the back, and Max Verstappen looked at all of it and said it's fundamentally wrong. Dominicali is begging Max to stay calm. Lando Norris called his retirement a bluff, and Max's response? Absolutely savage. And while all of this is happening, Max went to the Nurburgring, led the race, and then everything fell apart. Listen, guys, this is the story of a champion who is fed up, and nobody is talking about the full picture. Let's get into it. But before, if you want more updates and news on Max, then hit that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns. The FIA meeting. What actually changed? So here's where it all started. On April 20th, just days ago, the FIA held this big high-level meeting with teams, manufacturers, and F1 bosses, basically everyone who matters. And they came out with a list of changes they're calling refinements. Sounds impressive, right? Well, let's actually look at what they did. They reduced the maximum energy harvesting in qualifying from 8 megajoules down to 7. They bumped the superclip, that's the system that lets drivers recover energy while staying on the throttle, from 250 kilowatts all the way up to 350. They capped the race boost power at 150 kilowatts extra. And they're even trialing a brand new start detection system in Miami that automatically kicks in if a driver's acceleration is too low off the line. Now on paper, yeah, this looks like progress, but here's the thing. Max didn't even flinch when he heard all of this, and that reaction tells you everything. Angry Max speaks, the reaction nobody expected. Because Max went on Viaplay and said something that honestly sent chills through the whole paddock. He said, and this is the direct quote, "The problem is just that while you can adjust these regulations a little, fundamentally something is wrong. Not everyone will admit that publicly, but it is true." He called these changes little tweaks. That's it, little tweaks to a fundamentally broken system. And then, and this is where it gets really interesting, someone asked him what he actually wants from F1 in the future. His answer? He said he would choose to bring back the V10 or V8 engines. Think about that for a second. The biggest name in the sport is literally asking F1 to reverse course on its entire technical direction. And look, Max isn't just complaining for the sake of it. He said something earlier in the season that really stuck with me. A winning car doesn't matter. It needs to be fun to drive at this stage of my career. That line right there tells you where his head is at. Dominicali responds, "Your words have weight." Now, obviously, this is making the bosses nervous. Stefano Dominicali, the CEO of Formula One itself, came out and spoke directly about his conversations with Max. And listen, he was diplomatic, but there was definitely a message underneath the nice words. He told Autosport, his voice has to be listened to, but of course he knows that his voice also has a weight. Translation? We hear you, Max, but be careful what you say publicly because it affects the whole sport. Dominicali also said earlier in the season that everyone needs to stay calm and avoid overreaction because the sport just started a new journey. And while that sounds reasonable, imagine being Max, struggling every single race weekend, watching the sport you love turn into something you don't even recognize, and someone tells you to stay calm? Yeah, that's not going to land well. The sabbatical shadow. Is Max actually leaving? And this is where the real story starts. Because after the Japanese Grand Prix, where Max finished a painful 8th place, Dutch media reported he was seriously considering quitting at the end of 2026. That's 2 full years before his contract with Red Bull even expires. Damon Hill, the 1996 world champion, came out and said something pretty powerful on the BBC. He said Max doesn't have to do this. He's a new dad. He's been doing it for a long time. Maybe he needs a break. Now, Lando Norris had a very different take. Back at preseason testing, when Max's frustrations first went public, Norris basically laughed it off and said if he wants to retire, he can retire, calling it a bluff straight up. But here's the thing. When someone like Max, who lives and breathes racing, starts talking about spending time with his family instead of racing, that's not a bluff. That's a warning. The Red Bull disaster, the engine that's killing Max's career. And if you want to understand why Max is feeling this way, you have to look at what Red Bull has given him this season, because the numbers are genuinely shocking. After 3 races, Mercedes sit at 135 points in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull, just 16 points, 6th place, behind teams like Alpine and Haas, teams that weren't even in the conversation a year ago. The RB22 is, by Red Bull's own admission, the slowest car they've built in 11 years. Team boss Laurent Mekies actually admitted the car had significant shortcomings after the Chinese Grand Prix. He said the gap to Mercedes is substantial, half of it in the corners, half on the straights. The car is also reportedly around 20 kilos overweight, and Mekies is now reportedly banned staff inside the factory from even using the word surrender. When you're banning that word, it means people were actually saying it. Nurburgring when F1's chaos followed him outside. And just when you thought Max could escape all of this at the Nurburgring 24 Hours qualifiers last weekend, the universe had other plans. He started from 5th, carved his way through the field, and within the opening stages, he was leading the race in his Mercedes-AMG GT3. He'd built a gap of over 20 seconds. Everything was going perfectly. And then, splitter damage. The car got pushed into the garage, and the repairs took nearly 28 minutes. He finished P39. Let that sink in. The man who dominated F1 for years, who came to the Nürburgring looking for some joy outside of his miserable 2026 season, finished 39th because of a damaged splitter. It honestly feels like a metaphor for his entire year. He charges to the front, something breaks, and he's left watching everyone else drive past. What happens next? So let's bring this all together. The FIA made changes. Max called them little tweaks. Dominicali told him his words carry weight. Damon Hill said maybe he needs a break. Norris called it a bluff. And while Red Bull sits at 16 points with a fundamentally broken car, Max went to the Nürburgring, led a race, and still ended up P39. My honest opinion, Max isn't bluffing. A man who would rather drive a GT3 car at the Nürburgring than sit in an F1 cockpit he doesn't believe in, that's someone who's genuinely questioning everything. And I'll leave you with this. If Miami doesn't show real improvement, do you think Max stays in F1 beyond 2026? Drop your answer in the comments. See you in the next one.